Hello everybody, Ed0626. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have some WWE 2K16 gameplay, and I will be talking over that over the course of the next video or two. I wanted to get these videos out sooner in the year, like the first or second week of January. Unfortunately, my schedule prevented me from doing that, but it's only the first week of February, and it's WrestleMania season. So I think it makes perfect sense that these videos can still go out, because I do have some high expectations for WWE, which I'll be talking about in this video, and AEW, which I'll be talking about in my next video. I will say this though, if you're not too much into wrestling, that's totally okay. If you just want to watch regardless and see what my thoughts are, by all means. If you just want to leave a like and bounce and do whatever you want to do and wait for another video to come out, that's totally fine too. I know wrestling's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you've watched this channel long enough, you'll know that EBCW and wrestling content in general has been a staple on this channel, and I have a whole lot of opinions that I want to talk about as we get into the new year, or as I should say, as the new year begins to progress. Speaking of new year, Royal Rumble just passed. I think the creative decisions following the Royal Rumble, I haven't watched this week's episode of Raw yet, but I think some of the creative decisions following the Rumble are going to be interesting. I think that the creative decisions made already have been questionable. In the case of Rhea Ripley choosing Charlotte over Bianca, because I think that match would have made a lot more sense in my opinion, but to each their own in that regard. What I will say is this. I put out a video about 6.5 or so months ago, I think, about how WWE was kind of entering a new era, with Triple H taking over, Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan kind of doing their thing with the company since Vince was more or less, quote-unquote, ousted for a period of time. And for those 6 or so months, I thought the shows were doing relatively fine. I enjoyed the quality of the shows that have been put out. A lot of championships that are on the shows were given a lot more prestige than, say, the last couple of years of those titles being in the company. More specifically, the United States and Intercontinental Championships. I even think the match quality has been a lot better, because normally WWE main roster television doesn't really produce the best match quality when it comes to, say, Raw or SmackDown. There's the occasional banger every now and again, to quote Sheamus. But most of the time, if we're going to get good matches, they usually come at the times of pay-per-views. And I'm pleased to know, or I'm pleased to see, I should say, that has kind of changed. There's been a lot of great matches that have occurred over the course of the last couple of months. And that's great, you know, for someone like me who got back into Raw and SmackDown again after being away from it for several years during the pandemic of all times, when there really was nothing going on, there was no crowds, there was no atmosphere, there wasn't really a typical wrestling show that you're used to seeing on TV. They were in the WWE Performance Center, which was kind of a small sort of deal, which didn't really have like that grand wrestling, at least WWE production style. And then when it got to the Thunderdome, it was like, okay, there's people on TV, but obviously all the reactions are kind of fake because it's what they want to cheer and boo for. And then you get into when crowds start to really come back, and it's just, okay, it's great, but the shows suck because the creative is shitty because Vince McMahon's running everything. And up until about the new year, I was like, all right, this is going to be a great year for WWE. There's no way Vince is going to be coming back. And not even a couple of days into January, what was it, like 6 or 7 days, Vince McMahon is back on his bullshit. And the man basically sent the company into a fucking frenzy and sent the entire wrestling Twitter community into a frenzy with what the fuck has been going on. You know, it went from Stephanie McMahon leaving her position and I guess more or less leaving the company altogether, I would assume. Then the whole thing of Vince sold to the Saudis broke, allegedly. And I think Vince is only back, as far as I've been reading, as far as I've been made aware, Vince is only back in WWE to facilitate a sale of the company, which as a fan kind of worries me a little bit. You know, look at what Turner Broadcasting did with the whole AOL merger, or was it Time Warner, I should say, maybe. I think that's what I meant to say. And the whole AOL merger happened, and look what it did to WCW back in the early 2000s. You know, it killed the company because big-time media companies don't know what to do with wrestling. I've been hearing everything from the Saudis want it, to Comcast is the top dog in the running right now. You know, a whole bunch of companies are in the running. Disney, God forbid, fucking acquires another IP. It's just absolutely wild. It's a wild time to be a wrestling fan, and not necessarily for the right reasons per se, at least from the company point of view of things. At least right now, there's not going to be a whole lot of releases, which is nice because, well, quite frankly, I don't think WWE can afford having such a small roster like they did when COVID was happening. Because quite frankly, the shows were suffering from the fact that you saw literally the same people every single week. There wasn't a whole lot of different people on the shows because, well, that's all that they could offer us. Because that's literally all they probably had within the company. So I'm glad to know that there's a lot of new faces that have returned since then. And I'm hoping that they're going to start having a lot more prevalence on the show. I think guys like Karrion Kross need to be made a whole lot more serious if they haven't already. Because quite frankly, I think the whole performance that he had in the Royal Rumble and the fact that he was eliminated so early kind of makes me question where his place is with the company at the moment. In addition, there's been a whole lot of other new faces that have been hired, like Hit Row came back and they're kind of just there. Candice LeRae is back. Johnny Gargano came back. You know, it's really interesting to see where the company's going to go as far as wrestlers and storylines go. And as we all know, this past weekend was the Royal Rumble. And the Sami Zayn and Bloodline storyline has probably been the hottest thing on TV for the better part of the last several months, going way back into early last year. And I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes, man, because what I saw at the Royal Rumble was nothing short of cinema. It was peak cinema, to quote the Martin Scorsese meme. But in all honesty, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing where WWE goes as far as the TV content. And NXT is kind of its own thing right now. I don't really have a whole lot to say about NXT because I know they're still trying to find their way after the whole 2.0 experiment when Triple H took over again kind of ended. Which, you know, the shows weren't the quality that we were used to, but it was still okay. But either way, man, that's all I really have to say. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below, what you think is going to happen for WWE going into 2023, as far as WrestleMania goes, as far as where they're going to take the company. Let me know, man. I'm really curious to know what you think about that. You can find me on all the social medias down below, as well as my podcasts, and I appreciate the fact that you all are tuning in here after such a pretty long layoff. So it does mean a lot to me that you guys are here. Hope you all have a fantastic day. Take care of yourselves. And most importantly, take care of each other. Peace out.